Thanks, Wangeshi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you are in the globe, and hoping that everyone who's following us will listen and hear, and by the end of the day, we will be able to act. My name is Ojepat. People call me OJ. I work for Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya as a CEO, and Wangeshi has said that. Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya is a trade association in the fresh produce industry, dealing with value chain actors, farmers, consolidators, growers, basically value chain actors like transporters. Then we will get into aggregators, and the majority of our membership are exporters of fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, flowers, and the nuts. Currently, we also then have a few membership that are now into C and C products, and also meat and meat products. We are the leading and the biggest group, fresh produce association, and our business is basically to ensure that we are championing for best practices and just ensuring that we get value for our produce, both in the domestic market, in the regional market, and in the export market. Been here for about 22 years now, doing the same thing every day in terms of the industry. But let me start by what John said, and also congratulate my other colleagues for the remark, and thanks, Joy. Sooner or later, we should be able to have Kenyan coffee and not Germany coffee in Germany. And when we come for Fruit Logistica, we will definitely rate and get in touch with you. Before I go far, I just want to encourage those who are not in the export business that it's doable, it's possible. We've broken down the cartels, the so-called cartels. We've broken down the too much licensing, and the licensing period has come down to less than a month. Unlike before, where we go for 6 months or even a year. Currently, you can then become an exporter within 2 weeks based on what you want to export. We have tried to get all these licenses together. The challenge that still remains is that the African products has to get out there, having gone through a certification process. The kind of certification we were supposed to go through are determined not by ourselves, but are determined by the market. And the world speaks about compliance, and this compliance sometimes is a lot of duplication, but sometimes it's a reality that we just have no choice, but we must then be able to comply for us to be able to export. Sadly, we export very little to the African continent because of the logistics challenges that we have, and lack of trade treaties that agree. But I want to say this, and to the team and to everyone, and saying thank you for this. As I come to close to this introduction, I want to say one thing that John has said. Africans are not on the table when negotiation is done. Decisions are therefore made, and we are supposed to implement. Because simply African countries and governments are not on the table. And when you're not on the table to discuss anything, you become a subject and not a stakeholder. And therefore decisions are basically made. So we are doing what we can. We have to be deliberate, and we must then come out strongly. And Wangeshi, we must say who we are. Our identity must be clear. I just come back from Dubai, and I can tell you our Kenyan products end up in Dubai through Europe. It's sad, and yet it's 4 hours for us to get to Dubai from here. But it takes our products to go to Europe, then to Dubai, and the price on the shelves is about 8 times the price that we should have fetched directly here. So all our profits goes elsewhere. So I bring this to an end and say I'm available, ready to speak about the brand, but the first brand of Africa is Africa, and Africa must be proud of saying who we are. This is my take. Who are we? Do we know ourselves? Are we proud of who we are? We are the first problem because we have casually traded our country, our products, our brands, and we have sold it with a penny. We can't speak with Uganda and Tanzania. EU for example, speaks as a bloc.
Correct.
Who are we? We speak as small little people in a corner. Kenya can't speak as a bloc because we want to send coffee, somebody else horticulture, somebody else this. And by the end of the day, you want to negotiate. Who is negotiating on behalf of Africa? So what do we have to show? And what bargaining power do we have? Can I tell you this? That today, we are the only country in the globe that produces agricultural products 12 months of the year, 365 days, and we have capacity to export throughout the year. But what do? We shoot ourselves by having unfair, petty competition in Africa. And in Kenya in particular, I'm speaking from Nairobi. When Kenyans start competing among Kenyans instead of competing among other nationalities, what are we doing? And trading and becoming unethical instead of standing out and saying, listen, we have a Kenyan bean. I am among the people who said we are not going to sell a Kenyan bean as a French bean or a British bean. We have decided it is called a Kenyan bean because it's produced from Kenya. And we are known for flowers. So we must speak about our flowers. We must speak about avocado. We must speak about how we grow in a sustainable way under the sun. We are not in this emission we are talking about. And we are doing so much things, but who is talking about us? Who is talking for us? We have allowed our media to speak about politicians and not speak about food. Can I tell you today, Wangeshi, there is no single human being on the face of the earth that will survive with politics. Everybody must eat, including after this meeting. But whom do we give glory? How do we talk about our innovation? How do we talk about trade treaties? How do we talk about the beautiful Kenyan climate? Look at the way I'm dressed. You don't care. But I'm sure when Joy walks out, she has to have a jacket heavy on it. We have good weather. We're not talking about it. We're not proud of ourselves. So we must, this is the thing for me, so that I hand over this to my colleagues. One, we must believe that we are the sole producers of what we produce and we must brand it our name. Then we must speak and agree that Africa is a power that must speak. And we must fast track this into Africa trade and stop this unfair competition. I mean, they don't produce beans, they don't produce flowers, they don't produce avocado, they don't produce cocoa, they don't produce coffee. They can only sit down on the table with you. But when we end up being slaves and accept that policies are made elsewhere and are not domesticated at home, we are doing nothing. So this is what I'm saying. Friends, we must arise. If we don't arise, the current colonial system is coming that we will import our own food. I submit. One for me, I'm putting it out bluntly because I want Africa to believe in Africa and to get to know that we are the continent that gives solutions. Absolutely. Raw material and everything we have. The only thing we need to do is to quickly come together and then be able to look at being consistent and not giving up along the way. Consistency is a spirit and this power when we negotiate as a team. And what I meant by being on the table is particularly when policies are made. It's important that we get information and that we can voice our voices and our concern, however small it is, and people listen. But we keep quiet until decisions are made and then we just take them in, we'll continue suffering. But I want to give you hope that when the world shut last year in March and April, we fed the world. I remember we did not close. I remember challenging KQ and KQ repurposed the flight. I remember sitting together with the government and telling them essential services is not anything other than food. And we never stopped and we fed the world. And that means we have potential to feed everyone. We just need to believe in ourselves, to keep moving forward however small the steps are. And for the Kenyans or Africans in the diaspora, it is time to tell us the truth. We must move from aid to trade and fast. And we must reach out to other African continents, getting to know that we are not competing among ourselves, but we are competing to put our products in the marketplace, and we need to sort out logistics. I like the way, can I bring one thing on the table? That Please. Today, I can tell you, Angechi and the panel and anybody who is listening to me, that Kenya has the best cold chain in the world. Who has branded that?
Nobody, not yet.
Who knows that? We have the best cold chain in the world, better than Netherlands, that is the biggest exporter because of just being efficient. So if we can brand, let's believe, look at Safaricom. Whereas Safaricom is the leading innovation in terms of money transfer, the rest of the world has not spoken about it because we don't shout about it ourselves. So let's be proud of ourselves, but let's be disciplined and let's keep the focus. We must keep moving forward one step at a time and change the world. For the young men and women, there's hope in agri, because the only place you can go is agri. The rest, you will do anything, but you must eat. So let's add value, let's do many other things, and most importantly, let's brand and patent our brand so that people do not go and brand them out there and call it theirs. If we can do that, we have a future. We can do it. It is doable. It's possible. Let's speak about it.